Good day traders, this is Stefanos on behalf of Tixee, and in today's webinar we'll be giving an outlook of the market for the week of the 22nd until the 26th of August. Now looking at some of the highlights for next week, in the stocks front, we are still yet again focusing in the Q2 earnings season in the US. We do have a number of stocks releasing their figures on next week on Tixee's platform, and just to be exact, it's going to be 4 stocks, namely Nvidia, Salesforce, JD, the shoemaker, and Dell as well. On the Forex front, we'll have GDP data from both the US and Germany, as well as further inflation data from the US towards the end of the week. But first, a disclaimer, as always, please note that all of the ideas discussed in the webinar are my own opinions and do not make up for any form of investment, trading advice, neither any recommendations to buy or sell. You should always do your own research and due diligence before buying or selling any securities, financial products, or instruments, and whether you use any kind of trading strategies. Any information that relates to past performance is not indicative of future results. So, like we said, looking at stocks, I'm going to be focusing on the earnings calendar yet again. As we've been covering on the past couple of outlooks, you'll know that this is my preferred earnings calendar, which is provided by Market Insider. It's quite a simplistic UI, which is why I really like it. You don't have any other fuss around. It's just, simple and just what you need to know, which is the dates, the companies that are reporting the figure, and just like some additional information here. What I like the most is that you have these little boxes here indicating the number of stocks reporting their figures on a given day or week as well. So for the sake of the video, obviously we're going to set it to next week. And like we said during the intro, obviously we're kind of getting closer and closer towards the end of this earnings season as well. But by no means it means that things are slowing down in terms of like the impact that the reports can have on the individual stocks. It's that obviously you're going to start seeing fewer and fewer stocks reporting their numbers each week and on a given day. For example, last week we had more than 3,000 stocks releasing their figures. As you can see, for next week we're going to have a little over 2,500. But nevertheless, the good thing with Tixee is that you have a wide variety of stocks to choose from. And like we said, you already have 4 to choose from for next week. So those 4, as we said, we have Nvidia, which is going to be reporting the figures on the 24th. There's also Salesforce, which is also going to be on the 24th. Now if we scroll further down, we see that we have JD, which is the shoemaker. It's going to be on the 23rd of August. And the last one that we mentioned, I think it's towards, from what I recall, it was towards the very end. Let me just scroll through. But anyway, it was like Dell Corporation. It's just to see the date that they're going to be releasing. Let me just switch it to large cap. So obviously it's going to be easier to find Dell specifically. So there you have it. Dell Technologies is going to be on the 25th of August. Now, aside from the day itself, as we keep reiterating on each webinar, what you also want to focus on is the timing of the release. Meaning, is it going to be in the pre-market hours, or is it going to be after the market close? If it's going to be in the pre-market, then we can expect the impact to be seen on the same day with the open of the regular trading hours in the US. If it's in the after hours, then obviously you can expect the impact with the open on the very next day. So this is a little bit of a key distinction. I think this kind of information was already released for Nvidia, Salesforce, and JD. But for Dell, it still hasn't been released. So I would say closer to the date, you can just double check again to see the timing more or less of the release. And another easy way that you can use in order to find the stocks, what I like doing, I'll just show it yet again. You can just go to Tixee's website and navigate to stocks. And you have the list of stocks that are going to show up right here. And what you want to look for or search for is going to be the ticker symbol. So we mentioned Nvidia, so you can hit Control F or Command F if you're on Mac. And you can just type in NVDA for Nvidia, so you can see it's already showing up. Then we mentioned Salesforce, their ticker is CRM. And if I hit enter, you'll see it's also appearing right here. Then we mentioned JD, which is the other ones you can see. And lastly, we also said Dell. So you can see all 4 of them there that you can choose from on which ones to trade. So yeah, like we said, things are starting to slow down a little bit, but again, as we can see here, we already have 4 stocks to choose from, which is quite a significant number for, given the numbers of stocks that we can see on any given platform, not just on tixee. So yeah, this is pretty much with regards to stocks to watch out for next week. So definitely stay tuned for the reports and also the press releases that each company is going to be revealing alongside with their earnings release as well. Now, moving on to Forex and staying on tixee's website, you can just now navigate to education and research at the very top here, and we'll go to the economic calendar. As we said during the intro, we're going to have GDP data from Germany and the US, and we're also going to have more inflation figures in the sense that we're going to have the PCE, personal consumption expenditure figures from the US, which is also the Fed's preferred measure for inflation rather than the CPI. So it's definitely going to be, we saw the impact that the CPI had on the particular currency pairs last week. So obviously I do expect this one to be quite as strong as last week's report. So here you can just choose the tabs at the top. I'm going to set it to next week, medium high impact events, and always make sure to set the correct time zone here in the top right as well. So starting from Monday, the first high impact event of the day and the week, it's going to be the inflation rate from Hong Kong, and that's pretty much what's going to be most of the activity for Monday. Then moving on to Tuesday, we have inflation rates from Singapore. If you're into exotic currency pairs, and obviously this is something you want to be looking out for. And then towards the regular EU session, we'll have manufacturing data from Germany, and then the Eurozone as a whole, as well as the UK. We'll have unemployment figures from South Africa. It's going to be at 10:30 a.m. UK. Just scrolling through. Towards the afternoon, we're going to have housing data from the US. As always, it's good to just keep note of this little tooltip. It's obviously some added information that can help you towards making a more educated decision, as it gives you a rough idea of the volatility you can expect in the hours following the release of the event. So you have housing data from the US at 3. At the same time, you have consumer confidence figures from the Eurozone at 3 as well. That wraps up Tuesday. Moving on to Wednesday, inflation figures from South Africa yet again. Then towards midday, we have durable goods orders from the US. So we already have 2 high impact events on the day. That wraps up Wednesday. Then we move on to Thursday, and that's when we're going to have the 2 events we mentioned during the intro as well, which is GDP data from Germany. We have business climate index as well, which is going to be 2 hours later. And then towards midday, that's when we're going to get the GDP data from the US this time. As you can see, we also have pretty much the same event, but from Mexico. So again, if you're more into exotic pairs, then obviously you can keep an eye on that one as well. And that wraps up Thursday. And then moving on to Friday. So we have consumer confidence figures from Germany at 7 in the morning. And then we're going to get personal spending and income figures from the US at midday. And it's pretty much, if you see the timing of this event is going to be at the same time, which coincides with the inflation figure, which is going to be for the PCE price index. Again, it's going to be released at 1:30 alongside with all of these events as well. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed week. Some days are going to be busier than others, but overall, a good variety of events to choose from as well in terms of trading if you're into trading fundamental events. Since we're on the economic calendar itself, I always do point out that you want to take note of Wednesday, which is going to be the day we're going to have the oil inventory report. But I would say both for oil and gold. I wouldn't say for oil specifically, at least. Don't just focus on the oil inventory report, because obviously any other data pieces that are going to affect the US dollar are going to translate onto any commodities that are also pegged to the dollar. So for example, we mentioned GDP data for the US, and also the PCE figure, which is inflation data. That is also likely going to impact not just oil prices, but gold prices as well. So yeah, you can pretty much mix it up in terms of the markets you want to trade. So you can focus both on Forex and commodities as well, depending on what kind of event you're looking at. And yeah, this is pretty much with the economic calendar. And lastly, let's go over onto cryptos. And I'm going to switch the chart to Bitcoin specifically. So I was looking at it right before the start of the recording here. Let me just put it on the weekly time frame. So yeah, these are the levels we've been watching. If you've stayed tuned for the past couple of webinars, especially the outlooks, which is when we cover cryptos more specifically, we've been basically looking at these zones as to where price could potentially stage the next move off of. And as we can see, we haven't yet reached this zone, but we're already kind of making somewhat of a strong move. I mean, if I measure this one from open to the current level, we can see it's a drop of 13.3%. Over the course of the week, of course, but it's still a pretty hefty drop. Now, whether this is the start of the move, we still don't know, because obviously we want prices to come down to these levels and see how they're going to react here. Looking at the chart in hindsight, obviously, the level it's probably reacted off of was right at this week, as you can see right there. So yeah, this could be the start of the move. Obviously, again, it depends on what prices are going to start doing when they reach the lows down here. So obviously it's important just to stay patient, again, letting the market show you its hand. And obviously if you want to put some indicators to help us in terms of our bias, the moving averages are obviously pointing towards the downside. And if I want to add, let's say, let's put the RSI as well. So you can see it's now off of the oversold region. Of course, it's still pretty close to it, but you can see it made a little bit of a pullback here as the price started pulling higher. So this could be a trap maybe to get some sell stops triggered and then stopping them out. So you could see like a classic, let's say, A, B, C, D pattern, in the sense of you get the A leg, the B, the BC leg, and then the CD here. And then that's when we could get the next drop. But again, it will really depend what's happening here. If the price just keeps consolidating at the lows, so it's not really like making any, it's not really showing any reaction. So if it reaches the lows and it's just like going a little bit sideways, then I would say the probabilities would be that we would start getting the move from this zone. Whereas if prices reach the lows and they just pull back strongly and come into these levels, then obviously we're gonna have to wait and see what prices does back again in this area here. So yeah, it's gonna be quite important or critical for next week, or depending how long it takes it to reach the lows. But I wouldn't say it will be a lot, because obviously it's already beyond the halfway point towards the lows here. So yeah, I would definitely say stay tuned with regards to Bitcoin as well, because we could be getting some bigger moves over the course of the next few days and weeks as well. And yeah, there you have it. This is as far as the outlook for next week's markets. I hope you enjoyed the video and you found it useful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, trade safe.